Hey guys, today we're going to be working on changing the air dryer filter on this International LT 625. And you can see it's located on the driver's side, way on that side over there. So let's go ahead and get this done. So if you're wondering why I'm changing this out, here is our air dryer. You can see the cartridge, the filter cartridge up top, the Bendix. And if you look down below where the spitter valve spits out the air, you can see all this buildup right here. Well, that is actually from coolant getting in the airline from the air compressor that was failing. It was pressurizing the coolant, which was pushing coolant into the airlines. Sometimes that's oil. In my case, it is actually coolant. So we're going to go ahead and instead of just changing the air filter cartridge, we'll change the whole unit, which isn't a lot more than the cartridge itself. So one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and take a few pictures of where all the hoses and wires are actually attached. That way that'll help me identify everything going back in the correct areas. And as you can tell, everything is super dirty under here. Would have helped if I did a wash, but I'm gonna just take a wet rag and wipe off the hoses so I can identify the colors. All right, so I have this cleaned off and you can see all the crap that's been coming out of that spitter valve. So just kind of looking at where the hoses go in, the different colors, getting some pictures so that we can refer to that when we're putting it all back together. And then the wiring. All right, so let's go ahead and start taking this thing apart. So now we're going to move over to the other side and work on getting this orange hose off. All right, we were able to get that orange hose out. And so everything from the underneath is now disconnected. So now we just need to disconnect this line here, and then we can pull the bolts out to remove the system. All right, so now we're going to be working on pulling off these 3 bolts since everything else is disconnected. This unit is in the way, so I'm going to have to spin this to get it out of the way, or just take it off, which I'll probably end up just taking off. So let's see if I can manually turn it. Nope. So I'm gonna have to remove this here. All right, so I'm gonna use the 7/8 to take this off because this is blocking this bolt. So let's go ahead and get this off. I don't know if you can see how much garbage is in that. That's why we changed the whole system and not just the filter, not just the cartridge. Now we can access our bolt. We got 1, 2, 3. I'm just gonna break them loose right now, not quite take them all the way off, so that all the weight's not sitting on one. All right, you can see everything is loose now. We'll get the bottom one out first. There's number 2. And if you can, I don't know if you can see this, but there's slots that those actually slide into. So there's a slot here and a slot here. And this one is a hole all the way through. Okay. There is our system. So let's take it out and take a look. Okay, so we're going to go through this old one and make sure that all the fittings are removed from here and placed on our new one so that we're ready to go when we install the new one. So first fitting we see is this section. We'll go ahead and install it here. Let's get that off. So this right here is a 1 1/16, which I have a 1 inch and I have a 1 1/8 inch wrench right with me. But that's why I always carry a crescent wrench with me as well. All right, so even these fittings that we're pulling off, you can see all the garbage in there. What you could do if you want to reuse these is shoot some brake cleaner in there and try to clean it out. So that's what I'm going to do with this, because I do want to reuse this. I don't want to have to go and buy all these fittings again. So I'm going to clean all my fittings with brake cleaner. Just make sure you let them dry completely before reassembling. Hold on a second. These 3 are going to be a 3/4. If you need to, if you ever have any leaky fittings, you should probably have a couple extra on hand just in case. Okay, so we got those 3 out. That'll go on this side. Now we did take out the one fitting for the green hose. We got to take this fitting off for the orange hose. That'll go right here. So let's get that off.
You might have in the shed.
So this is a 15/16, which I don't have the wrench for it, so I'm just going to go ahead and use my crescent wrench. All right, so we got that off. So we have these 2 plugs. Those are off. That plug is off. This one has a cap, but we actually do have a plug that goes in there. So we'll have to pull this cap off so that we can put our fitting in there. All right, so this is going to be a 6mm Allen to pull this plug off. All right, so we got that plug out. I'm going to hold on to this in case I'll ever need that kind of a plug, but we do need that open so we can put our fitting in there. So this whole side is ready to go. That's just a cover, which we'll leave on so we don't get garbage in there. And this side, if you can see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 fittings here. However, on our old one, guess what? We have a plug. So this one we need a plug, which wasn't that convenient. They gave us a plug. So we're gonna go ahead and install this plug right here. All right, plug's installed. Now, another thing to note is the very back side. So make sure that those seals are on there before you install. So next what we're going to do is get our brake cleaner. Let me put this out of the way. So next we're going to get our brake cleaner. We're going to clean all our fittings real good, and then we're going to install them onto here. Alright, so I got my brake cleaner. Just going to look at these, see how they are. This one's actually not bad. It's pretty clean on the inside. So I'm just going to leave that. We'll reuse it. These ones, they're not bad as well. If I can help it, I don't want to spray brake cleaner in there. And these are actually pretty clean. These 3. So we'll leave those. However, this one and this one are very dirty. Let me see if you can see this. I can't see it all. So you can see how dirty that is on the inside. It's just really, really caked up in there. So we'll see if we can get that cleaned out. This side just has a plug on it because we don't actually use this. We don't need it. So I don't have to clean this out, but I'd prefer that not to be in my new unit. So if you can see, there's still a little bit in here. Let's see if I can get this to. So there's still a little bit in here, but it is much better than it was. Using that brake cleaner and either a screw or like a brush for cleaning straws, a straw brush or something like that, or even just a pipe cleaner. A metal pipe cleaner would probably work, just to fish through there and clean that out. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and put all of our fittings on our new unit. I did take some brake cleaner and clean the threads, and then we're going to apply that liquid Teflon on there as well before we attach, because you don't want to get all these fittings attached and then all of a sudden realize you put everything together and then you got an air leak. So we're going to get some liquid Teflon to put on there. Alright, so we have some high temperature thread sealant. I didn't want to do thread lock on here just because sometimes it makes it really hard to get these off when you need to. All right, this side is done. Rotate it a little bit. Go ahead, and this is where we had this piece. So we'll go ahead and put that on there. This side is all set. This piece is actually attached to the hose, so we'll put that in when we get this installed. And let's do this side. Alright, so we got everything attached. There is another little hole right here. So let's look on our old one and see what's in that place. Alright, our old one also has that hole, which tells me that that fitting is still down there, probably connected to the hose that it goes to. So we'll leave that plug there until we get to it. But otherwise, we got those fittings. We have that big fitting, that one's down under there, and we have the 3 fittings in the plug. All right, so this guy is all ready to be installed. So this section, you can see an imprint right there. One of the little rubber gaskets will go up against that, and the other one just goes up against nothing. So to show you, that's these right here. So you want to make sure that these are both on there so you're not leaking. All right, this one is going to be the one that goes up to my hole. So I'm going to make sure those line up. They will line up once you get the bolts in. 1, 2, 3 bolt areas. So what you could do is you could start the bottom bolt, just get it started loose. And once I get that started there, make sure your washer's all the way out. This whole thing should just sit right on that thing. Just like that. Then you don't have to hold it in place, okay? The next one I'm gonna get started is this one on the side. Just get it started nice and loose, making sure you're not cross-threading anything. And then of course, the one that goes in the back. All right. So I'm gonna start tightening these down, starting with this one. Once I get close to it getting tight, I'm actually gonna lift up on this a little bit. You don't have to, but. And then I'll tighten up the other ones. So remember, you have those rubber gaskets in the back, so you want to make sure that these are really snug. Okay, our new system is attached. Now we're going to go through and hook everything back up. I'm going to start by hooking up this piece. It goes right here. And really this doesn't have any use to it. It's just a plug. Okay. This is just a cap. It says non-adjustable. Don't mess with this. Next, we're going to get this line on here. So typically when I am changing a fitting or I take a hose off and I put it back on, I want to cut off just a little bit of this to get rid of the crimp that's already on the hose. The problem I have right now is with this hose, there's no extra slack. And this hose comes directly from the air tank, so I'd have to replace the whole hose, and I don't have this any more of this, so I'm just going to use what we have here. First I'll attach the orange one that's in the back, so you just get it in there, push it up, get it all the way in if you can, even if you can't. All right, the orange one is in. Let's get this green one in. These are probably the most difficult because there is very little room and very little space to grab. And when you put them in, they have to go in straight. Shove them as far in as they can go and then pull them back a little bit. That locks them in. All right. So once we're all done with this, we'll come back and check these with some soapy water, make sure we don't have any leaks. So we got that side, these two hoses in. Now we're going to get this plug in, which is this. Take our little plug out. Okay, we have that fitting on. Now we have our 3 press-in hoses on this side. So we're going to go ahead and get those in. We will need to make sure we install them in the correct order. All right, so we're going to start with the back one first, which is this orange. 1, 2, 3. Get that pressed in all the way and push back, pull back a little bit. Next one's this one. We're gonna get this in here. And then the last one is this one here. All right, those are easy to put back in. And then our last thing is this one here. Well, not the last thing, last hose, and then we have to plug in our electric plug. So we're gonna get this, put a little bit of the thread sealant on there. Enough. Now probably a little more than I need, but a little more than I need is better than an air leak. Okay. This was our 9/16. Starting to get a little bit tight in here. All right, it's nice and tight there. Now we just have our plug. Pop that cover. And take our plug, get it plugged in there. And then there was a little zip tie holding this on up, so it's not wiggling so much on the plug itself, but there's not a lot of space there, so I'm just gonna leave it. So with that, everything is attached, everything's ready to go. What we'll do now is we will turn on the truck, let it air up, and then check for any air leaks. Okay, so we were able to go ahead and crank everything up. It did it for its first complete compression and then spit it. Everything looked fine, but just to make sure, we're going to spray all these fittings with soapy water to make sure there's no air leaks. So I have my spray bottle here. We'll start underneath. See down here? See there? All right, all that looks pretty good. And so that is the entire process for replacing the air dryer system. All right, so we got the whole air dryer system replaced. I hope this video helps you step by step on how to identify, take that out, replace it. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave those down below. Appreciate you guys tuning in and supporting this channel. We'll see you on the next video.
God bless, we're breaking these runs. Life too short to play it on speed run.